Hi everybody, this is Arkady Frekhtman. I'm a New York City personal injury trial attorney. And today we have something exciting. We searched a national verdict database for one specific term, disc replacement surgery. And we got 28 real cases from October of 2024 up until today. And they included everything: verdicts, settlements, defense wins, and this was from across the whole country. And what we found was shocking. The same accident, the same surgery, but the outcomes ranged from $100 all the way up to $92 million. And today I'm breaking down exactly what separated the winners from the losers and what every injury victim needs to know before talking to their insurance company or considering settling a case. Here's the case index. There were 28 cases, and there's an entire index of them, including like the city, the name of the case, the date of the trial, the verdict amount, the little summary of the injury. And there were like 7 major themes. So instead of going through each case, because there's 28 cases, right? If I went through each case by case, we'd be here a while. It might be like an hour or more long video. So what I want to do is talk about the themes, and we'll talk about some of the cases as we talk about the themes. So the number one thing was this $92 million case where negligent hiring, there were drunk drivers involved, and there was punitive damages. It was a very interesting case. It was a lady who was 36. She was a professional musician. She was hit by a company dump truck on I-10. And the driver had a blood alcohol content of 0.196, more than twice the legal limit. He was later convicted of DUI manslaughter because the passenger in the plaintiff's vehicle died. The construction company actually promoted this driver after he regained his license in April of 2013. They failed to check that he had lost it due to a prior DUI. And that led to a lot of issues. There was a corporate representative deposition. Now, what that means is that, you could ask for a corporate representative, and that person, when they speak for the company. So here there was a construction company, right? The driver is going to know what he did. He was driving drunk. But when you speak to the corporate representative, whatever they say is like the company speaking, right? That's the official position of the company. So what they admitted was that they would not have hired this driver if they would have known that he lost his license due to a prior DUI and he had multiple violations. But whoever did hire him in the company just failed to check that, right? So that was a big point that the plaintiffs harped on. And then the plaintiff suffered 16 orthopedic surgeries, cervical disc replacement, lumbar fusion, 3 shoulder arthroscopies, partial knee replacement, ulnar nerve transposition, thumb surgery, botched rhizotomy. He actually attempted suicide twice because of how bad the injury was. And the news articles did not mention that this other, truck driver of this construction company was a drunk driver. So all her neighbors thought that she was the one who, got into this crash. She was at fault and called her a murderer because, like I said, the passenger died. So she had to deal with that. And she could no longer play piano, guitar, drums, or bass. Her vocal range dropped a full octave. And so the way the jury decided the case was they put 50% of the blame on this construction company, 40% of the blame on the driver, and 10% of the blame on the plaintiff. And they awarded or allowed for $92.3 million. 37.5 was past pain and suffering. 37.5 was future pain and suffering. 15 million against the driver, the DWI driver, and 1.8 for past medicals. And the defense, they thought the whole case should be 125 to 150,000, and the plaintiff told the jury that it should be 125 million to 175 million. So the gap was extraordinary, 125,000 versus 125 million, and then the verdict came in at 92 million. So I think the teaching points or the lessons that we could learn from this case are that negligent hiring and retention, right? That's a big thing. Punitive damages, how corporate negligence multiplies liability, why companies are often better defendant than the individual driver. Also the power of a human story. This was like a loss of identity, the musician who could not play, community harm, and the suicide attempts. So yeah, this was a good case. The second theme I wanted to talk about was When your own insurance company is the defendant, like cases. And so basically you paid your premiums every month for years, then you got hurt and your own insurance company offered zero and they forced you to take them to trial. So here's a case where, for example, Brown versus Allstate. Allstate flat out denied coverage for a 3-level neck fusion. The offer was zero. The jury said it was 5.78 million. And the insurance company just dropped the ball and didn't take care of their insured. Then there's Maines versus State Farm, rear-ended by an uninsured driver. So they go against their own policy. Prior disc replacement at C5, C6, C6, C7, but it was dislodged in the crash. State Farm offered only $100,000. The jury allowed for 3.68 million. The defense tried to argue no visible property damage and low speed impact, and those arguments did not work. Here's a case against Progressive, Feaster. This case went to trial twice. The first jury gave 7.88 million. Progressive got a new trial. The second jury gave 6.18 million. Progressive offered 100,000. The total time from the accident to the final verdict was 7 years. Here's a case, Small versus AAA, also in Texas. The at-fault driver had only 30,000 in coverage, and the plaintiff had a 250 UIM. AAA offered only 15,000, used social media modeling photos to argue she was not hurt, but the case settled for 225,000, so near the policy limit. And another case, Arriaga out of Texas. The at-fault driver had 100,000, and the plaintiff's own was only 30,000, and it settled for the combined 130,000. So the small UIM policy caps your recovery no matter how serious the injury. It's good. The teaching points, the lessons we could learn is understanding UIM coverage, why you need as much of it as you can afford, how insurance use low property damage and social media to deny claims, and then, basically they fight you every step of the way. So you have to fight, but then you can get a lot more, like you saw, compared to what they're offering. Now, the third lesson from all these cases is that credibility is very important. You have to have credibility, meaning you have to be believable. What you say has to be, credible. You cannot have no credibility, right? Once you lose credibility, your case is dead. And here are some examples. There was issues with surveillance. There was actually a dancing attorney in one of the cases. And there was a handicap form that somebody lied on. So, for example, a plaintiff has surgery. She had doctors testifying for her. And then the defense attorney stood up and started dancing in front of the jury. So let's get into this. Here's the case. Archer versus Bay Express. It's Florida. It was May of 2025. It was a defense verdict. This lady, Miss Archer, she was 54. She claimed she was rear-ended on I-95 and had a C4-C5 arthroplasty and claimed she could barely walk. Defense found videos of her dancing in church after the accident. They could not admit the video at trial for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't have it properly authenticated or, one of the rules of evidence. So what the defense attorney literally did is he danced in front of the jury, and then he asked the plaintiff, he said, were you dancing similar to this, like how I'm dancing? And, I guess she said she had to admit it. She said, yeah. And then her own attorney tried to walk it back, saying, oh, it was just gentle swaying, but the jury was not convinced, and it led to a defense verdict. And in addition to that, this same lady, she filed multiple applications for a handicap parking sticker, claiming she could not walk 200 feet, but in her deposition, she said she could walk several miles before the crash. The defense showed both statements, and she admitted she lied on the application because she wanted a parking space. And that was another reason why there was a defense verdict. So credibility, everyone, don't lie, be honest. It's better to just be, upfront and say, look, yeah, it's true. I was trying to get a parking space, or I was dancing, rather than trying to say no, because then it's going to come back and kill you. Once they don't believe you about one thing, they could throw out your entire case and say, well, we're not going to believe you about anything. And that's known as falsus in uno. Lie about one thing, the whole thing falls apart like a house of cards. Now, the fourth point that I wanted to talk about was the pre-existing condition, when it works and when it fails. So your MRI shows damage. The insurance company says it was there before. How do you prove a crash made it worse? These 8 cases show you exactly how. So the single most recurring defense tactic in this data set of these cases we looked at, it actually appeared in 20 out of the 28 cases, was here's where it failed for the defense. A case called White out of Florida. Prior to the accident in 2013, she was pain-free. But by 2017, then she gets rear-ended. 2 cervical disc replacements, laminectomy. The jury allows for $4.13 million. Plaintiff's radiology experts showed the injuries were acute on the MRI. So she's pain-free between the accidents, and that's what's key. So she has a prior accident, right, in 2013, but she's all better. There's no treatment from 2013 to 2017, 4 years. 4 years of being pain-free, of working, of doing all your physical activities. And then in 2017, when this accident happens, hey, whatever she had before is made worse. Now it's acute, and the radiologist showed, hey, that's how it's acute, meaning it's traumatic from this crash. That's what you need, that's what you really need. So if you're already treating and you're already going to a doctor and you're already hurt, before, you can't claim money for that because that's obviously not from this crash. You already had it before. So, but this was 4 years of pain-free living, which is critical. Where it succeeded for the defense, okay, Andino, a Florida case. There was a C4, C5, C5, C6 herniation in a 2008 MRI. The same levels were treated in 2020. Defense showed she didn't tell her doctors about the prior MRI. The jury was only allowed for $37,000. There was no permanency despite surgery. So, you have to be, again, credibility. You have to tell your doctor everything. Marquez, California case. 3-level fusion, the defense argued the forces were not sufficient to cause an injury. 65-minute deliberation, defense verdict. Plaintiff's post-accident behavior, no immediate treatment is what hurt her. So she had this 3-level fusion, but right after the crash, she doesn't get any treatment. I guess she started treating like a month later or sometime later. And they believed that, it was insufficient force to cause the crash based on that. This other case out of Florida, degenerative bulges were on the MRIs. Defense showed prior complaints, meaning she's complaining of this symptoms before the crash even happens. Combined with credibility, leads to a defense verdict. So you must tell your attorney and your doctor about every prior injury and the difference between acute trauma and degenerative changes on an MRI and why your treating doctor versus a defense IME doctor matters. Now, the fifth theme is this offer versus verdict gap, how insurance companies gamble and what it costs them. Here's a case, for example, where they offered $30,000 and the jury came back with $2.9 million. That's not a fluke. It's a business strategy that backfired. So the gap between offers and verdicts is stunning across this data set. Here's a case out of Texas called Dixon. $30K offer, $2.94 million verdict. Defense gambled on minimal vehicle damage and lost. Another case out of Texas, there was a stower's demand for $4.5 million. The insurer offered $210,000. The jury verdict was $3.37 million. And here's a case out of Georgia. Demand was $961,000. The offer was $575,000, but the jury verdict was $5 million. So you could see, there's more cases like that, but you could see. So basically, if you have a good case, if you have proof that you could prove your injuries, you don't have to take the offer. You can go to trial and you can get a lot more. They just lowball. The reason they lowball, meaning the insurance companies, is because a lot of people accept it and they get away with it, right? So if they're going to give you 10 cents on the dollar and you're going to say, yeah, sure, I'll take 10 cents on the dollar, they're like, great. So, but what you have to do is you have to be able to work with a real trial attorney to see, wait a minute, sometimes it makes sense to accept it, but sometimes you could say, no, that's not a fair offer. I'm going to get more in trial and just keep pushing. Now, the sixth theme was comparative fault, being partly responsible. So in Florida, for example, if a jury finds you more than 50% responsible, even if the other driver blew a stop sign, you get nothing. And this just changed in 2025. They changed the law. So, for example, here's a case. Baker in his 60s collided with a defendant in a shopping plaza. The defendant ran a stop sign. The jury found the plaintiff 80% at fault and the defendant 20% and awarded $30,000 for past medical. Defense immediately filed to enter zero judgment under Florida's tort reform law, which bars any recovery if the plaintiff is found more than 50% at fault. And that's what happened, got zero. So they're trying to change the law. They're actually trying to change it in New York too. In New York, we don't have that. We have comparative. We don't have this modified tort reform, but they're trying to propose that. So hopefully that gets knocked out. So those are the themes. And there were a few wildcard cases. But basically, that's what 28 real cases involving disc replacement surgery tell us. Number one, the same injury can be worth, $1,200, or obviously it could be worth zero, it could be worth $1,200, $37,000, or it could be worth $92 million, depending on the facts, the credibility of the plaintiff, and how the case is prepared. Number two, your own insurance company could be the most dangerous opponent you face. Number three, social media, government forums, and what you say at the scene of the accident can all be used against you, and credibility is key. Number four, like comparative fault and this new law in Florida, and they're trying to push it in other states. If you're more than half responsible, you get nothing. Even if you had surgery, even if you had, catastrophic injuries, even if you're paralyzed. If you're more than 50% at fault, you get nothing. So if you've been injured and you're watching this, the most important thing you can do right now is talk to an attorney before you give a recorded statement, before you sign any release, before you post anything on social media. Leave your questions in the comments below. And if the video helped you, please share it with someone who needs it. So please like and subscribe to our channel. Let us know what questions you have. We are here for you. Our goal is helping serious injury victims and families. All the very best. Bye-bye.